Hello 5th graders, today we're going to go over how to find the missing numbers, how to measure, how to plot points, how to do long division with remainders. So for the first one, finding missing numbers, we'll be doing number 1 and number 2 out of a total of 10 problems. So for number 1, we're given 576 plus 221 equals blank, which is our missing number. So to basically find this missing number, we just have to add these two numbers. So we do 576 plus 221. We end up with 797 as our missing number. So for number 2, it's a little bit different. 2,492 plus blank equals 6,738. So basically, what do we have to add to 2,492 to make it equal to 6,738? To simply solve this problem, we just have to subtract these two numbers. So we subtract 6,738 by 2,492. And we end up with 6 on the right side. And then we end up with 4 next to 4. So now we end up with 4,246. Oops, 4,246. So that's your missing number for number 2. And that's just it for section 1. Section 2 is going to be converting the given measurements to new units. And we'll be doing number 2 and number 4. So we're given these basic measurements to start off with, which will be very useful to solving number 2 and number 4. So number 2, we have 26 gallons equals how many quarts? So we're converting gallons to quarts for number 2. For number 4, we're converting from quarts to pence. So there's two methods that I want to introduce you to. So for the first one, I'm going to introduce you to something that I like to use. It's called expected with proportions. So for this one, we're given gallons and quarts, so we're going to be using gallons and quarts. So 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. So I'm just going to write it out like this. And then for 26 gallons, for this one, we're going to place it beneath the gallons like this. 26. Oops. So we're going to do 26 gallons. If you notice, the units are matching their vertical one on top of another. Next, we have 26 gallons equals x quarts, since x is the value we're going to find. So, and then we have quarts on top of another quart. So that's how I lay it out. And then now, since I have all of my proportions laid out, now I'm going to do the x method. So that's basically cross multiplying like this. 26 times 4 and 1 times 8x. So 26 times 4 is, I'm just going to do them on the side. 6 times 4 is 24, but this is 804. 104, and x times 1 is just x. So we found our x value, which is 104. So that would be what goes on here. So we found our missing quart number. And so that's basically how you find using cross multiplying proportions. Next, for number 4, I'm going to do more of an easier way. So since we're given quarts and pence, we're going to be using quarts and pence over here. So we know that 4 quarts equals 8 pence, which means that pence is twice as much as the number of quarts. So using that knowledge, I can say that 35 quarts is equal to 70 pence because 70 is twice as much as 35. So the way I did it is 4 times 2 is 8, so that means 35 times 2 has to be 70. And that's just it. These are just two methods that I want to show you guys. So the rest is pretty much the same using these units. The third section is plotting points. Plot the points shown on the coordinate grid. So before I go over the coordinates, we're just going to plot point A. I want to introduce you to the coordinate grid if you haven't already. If you don't know this already, this is the x, this is the y. And if you notice, there's the positive side with x and there's the negative side. And the same goes for y. We have the positive and the negative. The middle point here is just 0. So, okay, so for number A, we notice, so before we plot point A, I want to introduce the coordinates as well. So we notice the left of the comma will represent the x, and the right of it will represent the y. This applies to everything. And if you notice for the x, there's a negative, positive, negative, negative, positive. There's a negative and a positive, just like the x line over here. And the y, there's also a negative and a positive, just like this. So using that knowledge, we're just going to plot it. So if you just look at -4 and -5, we know that the left side is x and the right side is y. And to remember that the left side is x and the y, and the right side is the y, we can think of it as an alphabetical order because x in the alphabet comes before y. So just like the alphabet, the coordinates, the x comes before the y. So the -4 will represent the x. So I'm just going to plot -4 on the x line to start it off. So I'm going to plot -4 on the x line. Just the x line, don't get it mixed up. So -5, I'm going to plot -5 on the y line over here. So it's going to go over here. Now this isn't our final coordinates. It'll just be a setup. So for x, I'm just going to draw a vertical line like this. And for the y, I'm going to draw a horizontal line like this. And if you notice, these two lines intersect at a single point. And this single point is what we will call point A with the coordinates of -4 and -5. So if you notice, the -5 to x is over here. It connects to x, -4. And the y connects to -5. So the black point will be our final point. If you do the red dot like this, then you have to get rid of it. So make sure to erase the red dot after, because only this will be our final coordinates. And so the rest are just the same. Remember, x comes before the y. Last section, it'll be long division remainders. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll be going over number 1 and number 3 together. I'm just going to do these problems. So we're going to find the quotient with a remainder. So for number 1, we see 48,779 divided by 5. So I already laid it out like this. So first, let's see. Does 5 go into 4? No, it goes into 4 0 times. So I'm just going to put a 0 on top of 4. How much does 5 go into 48? It goes into there 9 times with 45. We subtract these, so we left with 3. 37, we bring down the 7. 5 goes into 37 5 times. So we subtract by 35. We're left with 2, and we bring it down. And this time we multiply it. Oh, my bad. I meant 5 times 5 isn't 35. 5 times 7 is 35. Now for the next one, this one's the one that's 5. 5 times 5 is just 25. And then we'll end up with 2. And then we're going to bring down the 9. And then 29. And 5 goes into 29 5 times again. And we end up with 4. So we should have a remainder of 4. To double check if your remainder is correct, assuming all your calculations here is correct, we have to make sure the remainder is less than this number. And 4 is less than 5, so it makes sense. So number 1, it'll be 9,755 with a remainder of 4. And so with these steps, we're just going to go over number 3. So we're going to do 47,521 divided by 3. I'm just going to go through this really quickly. 3 goes into 4 one time. So we put 3 over there and subtract, bring down the 7, and then it goes into 5 times, and we end up with 2. We bring down the 5, goes into 8 times, and we end up with 1. And I'm going to bring the 2 down, and it goes into 4 times perfectly. So we end up with 0, and we still have to bring the 1 down. 3 goes into 1 0 times, so we still have to place that 0 there. 0 is very important. So we end up with just a remainder of 1. And so that's just it for number 3, 15,840. And to make sure the remainder makes sense, 1 is less than 3, so it makes sense. And that's just it for section number 4. And that's it for today.